This is Zero Mass Water. It's a water startup operating out of an old car dealership in Scottsdale, Arizona. Is this the next level of drinking water?
Guys, I'm kind of thirsty. Come check this out. Come on, come on. So we're here with Zero Mass Water. This is a company that invented solar panels. Apparently creates drinking water from thin air.
It's actually water vapor, or moisture in the air. How cool would it be if you could take that moisture and turn it into clean drinking water? Well, I found a company here in Phoenix that claims that they can do exactly that.
What if you could produce clean drinking water right out of thin air and without using electricity? That's what one Arizona-based startup is trying to do, using a combination of solar energy, material science, and data.
Zero Mass Water, the next level, presented by Lauren Good in conjunction with Intel. So you know this is going to be really well researched. And I got so many requests to debunk this crap. Because, you know, it's going to give water to places that have no water.
Because of the fact that we can say, okay, yep, there's Syrian refugee issues in northern Lebanon, let's go there. Yep, Maria hit Puerto Rico, yep, let's go there. Hey, there's issues in Flint, let's go there. Hey, by the way, you're buying bottled water in Berkeley, let's displace that. Same in Oakland, same in Scottsdale.
So it really does seem that this free water from the air junk science has just become part of the junk news cycle for scientifically illiterate journalists pimping out clickbait, like this one from the BBC, who even late last year, in 2017, were promoting the water Seer, even after it had been thoroughly debunked, which has somehow changed its design from the one that I utterly debunked.
Water Seer uses the environment around it to extract water from the atmosphere. The Water Seer device is planted about 6 or more feet into the ground. The metal sides of the underground chamber are cooled by the surrounding soil. Wind spins a helical turbine, direct air into a condensation chamber. Clean, safe, pure water can be extracted from the reservoir through a simple hose and pump. Because the sides of the underground chamber are always cooler than the air, Water Seer is always collecting water, day and night, even without wind.
It was going to need no external power, it was going to make gallons of water per day, and it was only going to cost $130. Now, it's going to cost the best part of $1,000, somehow need 200 watts of power to do it, and still claims it's going to make gallons of water per day. And if you believe that, you'll believe anything, because all they've done is bury a regular dehumidifier in their garden. But I'll cover the cataclysmic failure of the Water Seer another day, of how they managed to convince people to give them $250,000 just to bury a dehumidifier in their back garden. Yeah. A dehumidifier. Water from air has always been possible like this. The only reason that we don't get our water from dehumidifiers is because it's a ludicrously expensive way of getting water. To the point where no matter where you live on Earth, it's almost always going to be cheaper and quicker to just get a tanker truck and drive it there, rather than relying on the free water from the air. Don't believe me? Let's take a look at some numbers. Optimistically, an installation costs $4,000 and $500 to install. Remember that number for later, kids.
There is still the cost to consider. Each panel costs $2,000 plus a $500 installation fee, so $4,500 total for a 2-panel array.
And if you check out their website, you'll see that's the smallest number they'll sell you.
On average, each panel is supposed to produce 5 liters of water per day.
But it is safe to assume that if you're in a less humid climate or a more dry climate, that your water output could be less.
Yes.
So there's some confusion here whether 1 unit makes 5 litres per day or whether 2 units make 5 litres per day. And according to their website, it looks like 2 units, the one that cost $4,500, makes about 5 litres of water per day. But whatever. For this example, I'm going to be generous and say that just one of their units makes 5 litres of water per day. So, to fill, say, a 10-ton tanker truck would take about 2,000 days. 5.5 years, which is good because that's getting on for the lifetime of the solar panels, with their website claiming that the expected lifetime of this unit is about 10 years. So what's the cost of 10 cubic meters of residential water? Well, in America, if you go through the calculations, it chalks in at about $50, $60, that sort of thing. Or if you want an easier conversion, in England, a cubic meter of water costs about £3, about $5. So 10 cubic meters of water costs about the same, sort of $50, $60, that sort of thing. And yep, it's that easy. A cubic meter of water weighs almost exactly a ton. 10 cubic meters, 10 tons. And what's the cost of shipping that water? Well, a medium truck can haul about 10 tons and gets about 10 miles per gallon, that sort of thing. Meaning if you wanted to ship it 1,000 miles, 2,500 kilometers, you would need about 100 gallons of fuel costing about $300. So it's your call. You can buy the water and ship it halfway across America for about 1/10 the cost. Or you can install these panel systems, which in the best case scenario produces 5 litres of water per day. And that's with basically ideal conditions for these panels, you know, with lots of sunlight and the right humidity. In fact, hell, here's a fun fact for you. These panels would on average produce more water if you just stuck a bucket under them. The average land rainfall around the world is about 0.7 meters per year. And if you look at these panels, they're about 1 meter by 3 meters, meaning they've got a footprint of about 3 square meters. So the average rainfall on these panels per year is going to be about 2 cubic meters or 2 tons. Their optimal water production is about 5 liters of water per day, which is about 1.8 tons per year. That is, the best case scenario for zero mass water is about the same as the average water yield if it was just used as a piece of roof to catch water in a bucket.
$4,500 for the 2 panels here. You could use it on a residential home, you could use it on schools and community centers.
So let's compare best with best. Best case scenario for zero mass water, 1.8 tons per year. Best case scenario for using it as a rain catcher, 10-ish meters of water per year, meaning you would get about 30 tons of water per year. Or we can simply use the average numbers for using it as a water catcher versus more realistic numbers for the zero mass water, which is about a half or a tenth, because let's be real. If the humidity is high, then the area is going to get lots of rain anyway, and these panels are kind of pointless. And if the humidity is low, then there's not much water to pull out the air, and these panels are kind of pointless. Look, all these things are basically desiccant dehumidifiers, which have been around forever. All they've done is add a solar panel to it. However, no one seems to have worked out there that the reason why it's so hard to get water from the air is because of thermodynamics. Something the awesome science reporting of Lauren Good picked up on immediately. Oh no, hang on, sorry, I got confused. Not immediately, the other thing, something she didn't mention at all. But of course, they were happy to highlight all the drawbacks of this thing.
Let's say there's an emergency situation, like with the recent hurricane in Puerto Rico. How quickly can you get one of these set up?
Like the thing that takes the longest is installing the plumbing.
So the 3 of us could install 2 of these in probably an hour. And so it actually turns out that the thing that takes the longest in putting these in is moving that line down to the sink or to the refrigerator.
Yeah, that's right, kids. You're paying $500 for having that plumbing cable installed.
Each panel costs $2,000 plus a $500 installation fee.
So the 3 of us could install 2 of these in probably an hour.
Well, I gotta say, when you take a look at their installation numbers, the spec sheets on these things, you get kind of a different feel. Each panel, they say, weighs 275 pounds. That's like 130 kilos. These things weigh an absolute ton. And I've got to say at this point, if you take a look at their numbers, everything seems kind of off here. Look, you can get a commercial desiccant dehumidifier off Amazon that produces about the same amount of water as these panels claim per day, about 5 litres or so. And that runs on about 400 watts. So to run that for a day, you would need 400 watts for 24 hours and ideal dehumidifier conditions. Well, how much juice are they going to pull off their solar panels? Well, if you take a look at their spec sheets, they say these things are 48 inches across. That's just over a meter. Meaning these panels are probably about 48 inches by 24 inches, that sort of thing, 1:2 form factor. while a 40 by 28 inch solar panel off Amazon pulls in about 100 watts. So it looks like their solar panel is maybe producing 100 or so watts while the sun is up. If they're lucky, because these things don't track the sun. So that's for maybe 12 hours or so. Honestly, it looks like their numbers are way on the optimistic side. Even if you're going to say the panels on the side harvest some useful heat, they're probably only looking at the equivalent of 400 or so watts optimistically while the sun is up. So you'll probably be looking at a couple of litres absolute tops on this thing. For their installation in Arizona, I'd be surprised if they get a tenth of that. Which is probably why they're so tight-lipped about this sort of thing and only stress what it'll produce in the best case scenario. In fact, I've got to give the reporter a little credit here for slipping in a little skepticism. Insignificantly mentioning that while they were given water to drink and were told that it came off the roof, they never actually saw it plumbed into the roof.
And where is this water coming from?
So the panels that produce this water are on the roof, so we're taking the water vapor out of the air, concentrating it in the panels, and then we're dispensing it to the town.
While I was able to see the zero mass panels and taste the water, I didn't have much visibility into how the water actually runs from the reservoir to a faucet.
Probably a good thing too. Who knows how long that water could have sat on the roof in a non-sterile system. Yeah, just the sort of thing you want for a drinking water supply. And what was that? Earlier in the video, weren't you saying that this was all plumbed in so you could actually drink the water in the building?
And where is this water coming from?
So the panels that produce this water are on the roof, so we're taking the water vapor out of the air, concentrating it in the panels, and then we're dispensing it to the town.
Well, what are all those bottles doing under your water collectors then? But they've thought ahead, and they've got a worldwide control center so they can literally watch the water condense.
I was, however, able to see the company's network operations center.
We call it the NOC for short. Every panel that we've ever deployed is communicating with the server we have here.
Seriously, that's one of the most pointlessly, massively over-designed control centers ever. And yeah, no wonder those units cost $2,000, because they need Wi-Fi and all sorts of extra detectors so they can relay their information back to this control center.
Every panel that we've ever deployed is communicating with the server we have here.
So far, Zero Mass says hundreds of panels have been set up in 8 countries around the world. So far, Zero Mass says hundreds of panels have been set up in 8 countries around the world.
And it's a profound thing to say, and I recognize it sounds profound, but this technology entitles us to be aspirational.
And sure, let's just sit around like a lemon while this person just rattles off these completely unrealistic aspirations.
Because of the fact that we can say, okay, yep, there's Syrian refugee issues in northern Lebanon, let's go there. Yep, Maria hit Puerto Rico, yep, let's go there. Hey, there's issues in Flint, let's go there. Hey, by the way, you're buying bottled water in Berkeley, let's displace that. Same in Oakland, same in Scottsdale.
Hey, I got a better idea, dude. My water catcher does 10 times what yours does for 1/100th the cost. But I know, no one's going to buy mine because it doesn't have solar panels on it. Because, you know, who cares about what's operationally possible when you've got aspirations? Indeed, forget about what's operationally possible. What about what's thermodynamically possible? Okay, so anyway, like I was saying, the fundamental reason why this will never be viable is because of thermodynamics. To change the phase of water from liquid to gas requires an obscene amount of energy. And the fundamental reason for this is mind-blowingly simple. Water is held together by these really quite strong hydrogen bonds. And if you want to turn it from a liquid to a gas, you have to supply enough energy to break all of those hydrogen bonds. How much energy is that? About 2 million joules per kilogram. Kettles are high energy appliances. You really have to gurgle the energy into those for minutes just to boil off a tiny fraction of the water. This is you putting the energy into the system to break the hydrogen bonds. And that takes a crazy amount of energy for water. 2 million joules per kilogram of water. That's about a litre's worth.
So that there is 1 litre of water.
And a little perspective, if I were to get a kilogram of silver, and that there is 1 kilogram of silver, and put 2 million joules into it. So it takes about 200 joules of energy to heat up 1 kilogram of silver by 1 degree. Which means that for 2 million joules, you could heat this silver up, this 1 kilogram of silver, by about 10,000 degrees Celsius. That's hotter than the temperature of the surface of the sun. The point is that actually boiling water takes a colossal amount of energy. And the same goes for condensing water. You have to get rid of a crazy amount of energy to do it. And cooling things down takes energy. Indeed, the only place this sort of thing happens regularly on a large scale is in the atmosphere, because the energy flux in the atmosphere is just on a completely different level. Oh, and boy, were there some hardcore shills for this stuff. I mean, just listen to what the promoter for Zero Mass Water had to say to The Verge.
For Zero Mass, the company says the goal is to get to the point where the idea of water from thin air is just a part of people's everyday conversations.
If you're at a cocktail party and say, oh, I've got solar on my roof.
Yes, when you're at your cocktail party. And at that, I think we've more or less established who the prospective customer of this thing is. And it's not the impoverished kids that they cluster around this thing. So they can sell it to folks so they can brag about their solar water at their cocktail parties. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, that's right. How badly some people were shilling for this thing.
If you're at a cocktail party and say, oh, I've got solar on my roof, people think, oh, electricity. To in a small number of years, people saying, oh, you have solar on your roof. Are you talking about electricity or water?
Now just listen to this completely random question from Future House.
Historically, we've only had 2 options. The first option was generate electricity with solar, electric, or photovoltaic. The second option was solar thermal, right? Generating hot water, domestic hot water for showers and dishwashers. But now you guys are introducing a third technology to generate clean, safe drinking water. So what type of homeowner should consider this type of technology?
Mr. Burns, your campaign seems to have the momentum of a runaway freight train. Why are you so popular?
Ooh, a tough question, but a fair.
The question then doesn't seem to be whether it's too good to be true. It's whether harvesting water from the air is the most sustainable, most cost-effective solution for clean water.
Which means it's too good to be true. And the thermodynamics of why it's too good to be true have been known about for decades. And that's why Zero Mass Water is bullshit. And if you thought this was an awesome source video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And if you really like this stuff, you can support the work of this channel directly through Patreon. And I'll leave the links below.